Hello and welcome to the Satluj Podcast. In 1948, a universally acknowledged masterpiece of literature was published. George Orwell's 1984 brought us the dystopian symbol of Big Brother, which became the universal shorthand for the erosion of truth and totalitarian control. Now, while Orwell wrote his cautionary tale in the shadow of the 20th century's dictators, in fact, just years before it even followed the Nazi regime's methodology, his work still to this day remains the definitive reference point for understanding how modern regimes gain and maintain absolute control through surveillance and state-sanctioned narratives. So in today's discussion, we're going to explore a chilling contemporary parallel: the rising tide of authoritarianism within the Indian government. From the tightening grip on dissent to the systematic marginalization of Sikhs and other minority communities, the echoes of 1984 are becoming impossible to ignore. Is the world's largest democracy mirroring the very dystopia that Orwell warned us about? Well, to peel back the layers of legislative overreach and digital censorship, I'm joined today by our regular guest, Dr. Gurinder Singh Grewal, MD. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Good morning, Angus. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh. So, I thought we will discuss today's India with the lens of George Orwell. You know, George Orwell was born in India, in Bengal. His father was in the British Indian Service officer. He went back to England, studied and came back. He was in the police in India, then part of India was also, later on became Burma. But he got very disenchanted, goes back, and he lived on the streets. He wanted to experience how the poor people feel, and he changed his name. His name was Eric Arthur Blair. He said Eric was too Nordic, Blair was too Scottish, George Orwell, George was more British. Orwell was a river near where he lived. So he is known as George Orwell, not as Eric Arthur Blair. So he has written several books. Two of them are very, very popular. Anybody who has studied anything about English literature, I studied very late, is the 1984 and Animal Farm. I think both of them are describing what India looks somewhat today, okay?
So do you want to talk us then through, Dr. Grewal, let's take a look at
how he came to this conclusion is, you know, he participated in the Spanish Civil War, where he saw the effects of Soviet Union, Nazism, and as the war ended in 1948, he came with this novel. It's a novel, but it's a very true description of many governments today. India is one of them. So we're going to talk Orwell, electoral illusions, and Sikh perspective on majoritarian power in contemporary India. Okay. So George Orwell's novel doesn't have election, but the election is not the only reason to exclude India from what he describes. So let's talk. What is 1984? A philosophical exploration of power, truth, and the fragility of human freedom. So how power, truth, and fragility of human freedom is in today's India. So we'll talk a little bit about the George Orwell's. So enduring influence and legacy of 1984, okay? There is a Big Brother. Big Brother is a party. So the Big Brother, which people call today describing the government, comes from the book. Big Brother is omnipresent, watchful leader, now a shorthand for invasive government surveillance. Big Brother is in your house in the book. So anything you do, there's a telly there. You know, you can call television, they call telly. So which monitors everything. Government can monitor what you do even in your home. The room 101 is a place of ultimate terror where all the torture and psychological torture is being done to create the fear. Newspeak is a language created to control the mind. So the language is also being reconstructed, just like BJP now is trying to have a national education policy. So everybody will study in the universities what they want. Okay. Thought crime. Even the thinking against the government is a crime. Act of holding or expressing unapproved thoughts, reflecting ideological policing, is also one of the elements of this book. Okay, this book has been mentioned into films, music, and many other forms, and has become, I think, kind of standard describing the authoritarian government like communism and all that. So how does government has absolute power? They have surveillance. The party, the big brother, monitors citizens through tele and every way possible in their homes. Okay, propaganda. Reality is continuously rewritten to align with the party's current narrative. So reality is what party thinks. Psychological control, most effective tool, reshaping consciousness so resistance is diminished. Party seeks power entirely for its own sake. That's O'Brien. Okay, there are three main characters. Winston is the person who's a hero, then becomes a victim. Julia is his girlfriend, and they have the relationship, which is also prohibited. O'Brien is representing the mind control police who gets into the mind of Winston and then later captures, tortures him, and breaks him. This is the story, okay? Control of truth and history. So, manipulation of history is central to party strategy. By rewriting the past, parties ensuring authority appears timeless and unquestionable, okay? Winston works the past. He works for the party, but inside he is not agreeing to what they do. So he always have that dual personality. So how they rewrite the past, historical records are altered to match the current position. Control the present. Citizens threatened by the party, and alternative records are created. Control the present. Citizens accept the revised reality as a truth with no alternative record. Secure the future. A population with no accurate memory cannot challenge the authority. Okay. So this is very important. If you grow up today in India, you have never read anything before, and you mature in the last 10 years or 14 years, you think the reality is what this RSS BJP is telling you. So this is how things change. Who control the past, control the future. Who control the present, control the past. So this is the philosophy, and that's exactly what they are doing in India, BJP and RSS, okay? Vocabulary reduction, newspeak, this is new language, systematically eliminate words, shrinking the conceptual universe. So people are limited to their vocabulary, what government decides for them. Double thing. Citizens are conditioned to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously without conflict. Inside, like Vincent, he may be thinking what he's doing is not right, but he's not allowed to change his thinking publicly. So slogan is truth. War is peace. They are led to believe the war is peace. Freedom is a slavery. Ignorance is strength. This is the slogan the big brother is teaching the people. Okay, crime stop. Big brother have ability to stop the dangerous heart before it becomes consciousness. That's how O'Brien gets into the mind of Winston and find out his rebellious nature and catches him before he does any mischief. Okay. Vincent Smith. Vincent Smith is the main hero. He has awakening inside. He's writing a diary that whatever he's experiencing, what the truth is. He meets Julia, who is becomes his girlfriend, and they have a relationship. Who is also like Vincent, thinking what's happening, what the big brother doing is not right. But before they can do anything, the O'Brien, who is working for the Ministry of Truth, who control the mind, they torture people, and he takes control of them. And before they do anything, he takes them into room 101 and where he's tortured. And the Vincent cannot stand the torture. He betrays, he says, Julia, he frames the Julia. He becomes so weak, he submits and listens to the big brother and betrays his love also. So who is a big O'Brien here? O'Brien in India now is represented as ED, Enforcement Directorate. Whosoever the government thinks is now going to go against them, they tell O'Brien, which is the ED department, and the ED department goes and say, okay, we have a case against you, and we're going to arrest you, and they submit. Just very, very recently, the former chief minister of Punjab, who was a Congress chief minister, joined BJP. Lately, there have been a lot of rumors or maybe truth in the newspaper that he was thinking or wanted to go back to Congress, but ED department goes in, starts a case or something like that against his son, and he backs off. But he's unhappy. He doesn't go receive a home minister when he came to Punjab. His wife goes in. But just like Vincent, he submits to the O'Brien. O'Brien is ED department. So this is how this story plays in the current government system. Historical context for Orwell's intent. This all started with the Spanish War, where he participated. He saw Stalin's Russia shows a trial, historical revisionism, cult of personality, and purging of dissent directly inspired the party's methods. Stalin's, according to what I read, killed millions of Russians, and the rest died in war. Nazi Germany, mass propaganda, surveillance, and the weaponization of language informed Orwell's vision of ideological control, post-war anxiety. So after witnessing all those, studying, then he writes this novel. This 1984 book comes into existence. Okay. So in conclusion, truth is power, okay? Whosoever controls the definition of reality controls everything. This is what BJP is trying to control through the universities, change the core curriculum of all the universities. That's why they were part of the reason strike in Punjab University. Language shapes the thought, restricting expression, restricting the capacity for resistance, okay? Just like calling Bal Veer Divs to the martyrdom of younger Sahibzadas. So they're changing the language. And when you change the language, the meaning changes. Individuality is fragile. Without social structure that protects it, the self cannot be dismantled. So many people are becoming fragile as coming to the power of a big brother, which is the ED department. So the conclusion, the society that abandons the truth risks losing its freedom. That's from the George Orwell. Okay. So let's apply this to today's what's happening in India. Linguistic impact. Newspeak and Orwell have become standard terms for manipulating the language, which is happening now in India too. Surveillance debate. So there's a strict surveillance at every level. We have, I think, one of the slide later. Later, global relevance, a universal cautionary tale against authoritarianism, propaganda, and censorship is necessary. Culture touchstone. Okay, this book has been in the television, film, music, and political commentary, explaining the situation in different parts of the world. Okay, there's electoral illusion. Just because India has election, it doesn't mean they don't have a majoritarian power in contemporary India. The only difference here is they have elections, where the elections are controlled by the big brother, RSS BJP party through O'Brien, which is ED department. They are raising voter lists from many areas where those people who are alive, but they don't exist. And then they control the machines and they alter the outcome. The leader of the opposition has gone public and explained, and they have not been able to answer his challenges. So the elections are illusions. Elections are often used to claim democratic legitimacy. Orwell's 1984 shows how authoritarianism can mask as democracy. Okay. Sikh historical experience highlights the risk of centralized power. Sikhs by nature are decentralized. We like the decentralized power, so that's the main conflict the Sikhs have with the Indian government, which is a Brahminical society, centralized society. Brahman is the center, everything around him, and we are decentralized. So this is what one of the problem is. Power beyond elections, surveillance, propaganda, rager of dissent. So surveillance is to stop the propaganda or stop the dissent. Manipulation of truth, leader worship. Okay, anybody who try to go against Modi and Shah goes to jail. Okay, everybody's supposed to listen to them. Even if you elected a member of the parliament, they put you in jail. Destruction of institutions, authoritarianism removes real political choice. So all these are applicable in today's India. Elections do not prove democracy. Even in Russia, they have elections, okay? But since Putin came into power, it doesn't matter who else is fighting the election. Putin is the power. Similarly, look, since Modi came in, his party's propaganda was the leader will retire at 70, but he's not going away. So procedure versus substantive democracy. It's just a sham elections. Elections can coexist with authoritarianism, okay? Many governments control elections, but the elections happen on one party system or whatever. Suppression of opposition, media control, weak judiciary. So there is hardly any mainstream media which is not controlled by Indian government, and weak judiciary. Weak judiciary, few days ago there was a Supreme Court decision. There was one Christian person from Dalit family. They're still treated like Dalits, okay, weak, low class. He went to the court to have the same protection like the other Dalits have. The Supreme Court says no, because you became Christian, you do not have that protection anymore. That's only for people who believe in Hinduism or classifies as Hindus in Article 25, which includes Sikhs, even though we are not Hindus, okay? So if the Constitution doesn't give you that protection, which is only guaranteed to be if you accept Hinduism, then you don't have the same protection. That explains how weak the judiciary is. So India became free in 1947. I think this is the main decision that I have come across comes from Supreme Court denying that protection. Okay. Until now, they were even getting some benefits. Now they will have to declare themselves Hindus before they will get the same protection or same benefits. Criminalization of dissent undermines democracy. If you are against the government, you become criminal. Okay. You ask for freedom, like Amritpal Singh, member of the parliament in jail for 3 years. Why is in jail? Because he is dissenting with the government. So now the Punjab government and the Indian government think he is a threat to democracy. How can he be a threat to democracy by talking? If democracy is so fragile, it's not worth it. Majoritarianism and the Indian context. Centralization of power. Power is all centralized. The state governments, especially non-BJP governments, have no power because the governor comes from the center, and the governor is the real power. The state government cannot even call assembly meeting without his or her permission. Pressure on journalists and NGOs. There was only one journalist in Delhi. The TV station was bought by Modi's friends, so he lost his job. Now he's trying the social media, but it doesn't have the same reach. Use of sedition, upalas. So anybody who they don't like can be tried under seditious laws, upalas. Digital surveillance and polarization. There's a huge department under RAW which monitors you, me, and all of us, what we say, even we are outside India. Threat to minority protections. So minorities have no protection, like we talked about the Supreme Court recent case. How Sikhs are different from this system. Why Sikhs don't fit into this political system of India, which is centralized. Sikhi principle is decentralized. Miri Piri, dual sovereignty, okay? We are sovereign, and Sikh society is a sovereign, okay? We are not part of the Hindutva, even though Article 25, they're trying to do that. Khalsa is autonomous, anti-authoritarian. So this is one of the conflict we have with them. Sarvat Khalsa, decentralized government. Power comes from the people, not from the government, okay? We talked about last time how 3.5%, when they withdraw the consent, they can change the structure. So historical memory of state oppression. Sikhs have not forgotten or forgiven the repression they have or we have endured. We will never forget that. Okay. Why Sikhs have a problem with the majoritarian structure? There's erosion of minority rights, okay? Narrative control and misrepresentation. They are even misrepresenting our history. Textbooks are being changed. Criminalization of dissent. Many people are in jail, even though they have finished their sentence according to the law, but they are not released because the only way they can be released if they go before Ahmad Shah, which they are not going to do. Culture homogenization. So they're trying to say homogenize the society, the whole India as one. They're not saying equality principle, but homogenization. So everybody comes in a Hindu fold. Institutional vulnerability. Institutions, if they don't listen to them, will become vulnerable, like SGPC. SGPC elections are due, but they will only call it if they are sure their cronies will be in charge or control. institutions like, the institution of Sant Jarnail Singh. Now the current leader has some weaknesses. I don't know what they are. I don't want to say anymore. But his weaknesses are known to the government and they are exploiting it, and they can make him dance anything. He will go bathe in Ganges, he will campaign for them, anything. Because they find who is a person vulnerable and which institution this person controls so they can take control. There are a lot of cult leaders in Punjab now. They are being controlled by BJP. So, comparison table of India and the Sikh perspective with the Orwell book's theme, okay, power structure. Orwell's 1984 total centralized control. India increasing centralization, okay, not there yet, but moving every day towards that aim. Sikhs favor decentralized authority. So that is a conflict which is almost a permanent, non-resolvable. As long as there's a Sikh faith, I think this is going to be the problem for the Indian government and problem for the Sikhs to tolerate them. Truth and narrative, ministry rewrites history. There's a ministry of truth, that's O'Brien represents, and he arrests Vinson and tortures them. So similarly, media pressure, narrative dominance. So there's hardly any media which can disagree with the government in India, or they lose control, their structure, like NTV. Sikhs have concern over misrepresentation, like changing our history. Okay, even ninth Guru sacrifice now Hindi Chada. He died so Hindu religion can be saved. Not saying he died for the freedom of religion. Treatment of dissent eliminated entirely. In Orwell's 1984, there's no dissent. Okay, as soon as even you think of dissent, they torture you. In India, selective criminalization. So many people are suffering in jails because they dissent. History, why Sikhs don't like history of being labeled as extremists. So we are extremists if we want freedom. Sikhs want freedom, like, Sardar Nijar was killed because he's for freedom. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu was to be murdered because he started the Sikh referendum, or he advocated for a Sikh referendum. You cannot even be free speaking your mind and 1,000 miles away. You are still being targeted. Okay, minority rights. There's no protection in 1984. 1984 is not a real country or government. It's imaginary novel, but it's almost real application to many, many systems, okay? So there's no protection for minority rights. Vulnerability for minorities in India, minorities are vulnerable. There's no minority rights, okay? We just talked about the Supreme Court decision. But in Sikhism, emphasis is on protecting the oppressed. So how fundamentally different is the Indian system from the Sikh belief system and culture? Surveillance, total surveillance in 1984. They have that device called Tele, which monitors you even if you're cooking at home. Expanding digital surveillance, we have a slide showing how, Pegasus system, now the Sanchar Sati, something they'll put in your phone, they will monitor everything about you. But in Sikhism, sensitivity due to past monitoring, whatever they've done to the Sikhs before has sensitized and reason for dissent, okay. Conclusion, Orwell warns of authoritarianism through illusion of choice. Elections do not ensure democracy, okay. Sikh tradition emphasizes sovereignty, dissent, and minority protection. Excuse me, which is entirely different than the centralized Hindutva government. Majoritarianism poses structural risk to religious minorities, not only to Sikhs, Muslims, Christians. They are being targeted every day. Around Christmas time, there was a Christian priest who was tortured, made to drink cow dung in water, and harassed. And then, instead of having some protection from police, they registered a case against him that he was forcibly converting somebody to Christianity. In 12 states, they have laws against conversion. So you cannot be free to choose who do you pray, which God you believe in. You have to believe God of RSS. Okay, this is interesting. So this is a camera, I think, on the left side of the screen or on our left side. That's 1949. But look on the other side. Now they have digital monitoring. Even when you're walking on the street and you're protesting, they can identify you, they can jail you. I think you know the story better, but from what I heard, I think Jaggi Jawal is in jail because I think he participated in some protest and they had that picture. So you are never safe. Look at the how many people are coming under, and they are all being monitored. India is rapidly expanding surveillance infrastructure, and it's a striking parallel to George Orwell's vision of continuous monitoring, loss of anonymity, and strict control. So, okay. This is on the one side. We have the one eye. It's a tally of George Orwell's book, How Big Brother Monitoring You from Home. But now there's a monitoring everywhere. There's AI, the CCTV cameras, deployment of thousands of AI-enabled cameras utilizing facial recognition for policing and crowd control. Several Indian cities now rank among the world's most surveilled. Okay? Digital anchor monitor proposal for always on location tracking face severe privacy, opposition, government tools like to Sanchar Sati. That's the app in their phones they will put in. So which will monitor your financial record, your conversation, anything you do, because phone today is a little computer that you use every day. So this will give them capability to extract your location, messages, photos, and call logs. So you will never be free. This is a even worse than what Orwell imagined. So, the one more thing here is not in this slide, but very dangerous. Israel and India are now partners. How Israelis put the bombs in their pagers for Hezbollah and blow them up. It's quite possible someday for the Sikhs, Muslim, Christian, they may be giving them phones which has something they can blow up from one button. So it's becoming very dangerous society. The freedom is gone. Okay, this is the, I think, final slide. How India is becoming a big brother. Okay, there's a tele thing in banking record, travel log, welfare system. That's from the book. Now in the center they have a Aadhaar card which has your digital biometric anchor, so they can identify you. There's a central monitoring system, direct monitoring of calls, emails, and internet activity. NetGrid is some old law changing to the new ones. National Cyber Coordination Centers, monitoring of internal internet traffic and metadata. Okay. I am not sure, I'm not privileged to know, but somebody told me there may be few hundred, 300 or more people sitting in one of the raw offices monitoring all of us, like me, you, what we do, who we talk to, and all of the above every day, and then trying to sabotage, okay? Ministry of Truth. Now there's interception and narrative control. There's a new Ministry of Truth. In 2008, Section 69 of the Indian Telegraph Act, which was in 1885, modified. So these laws enable the interception, monitoring, and decryption of digital information without a court warrant under the justification of security. So there is no freedom to talk, no privacy. They can monitor you, anything. They have a power according to this act. And just more than we know. The modern Ministry of Truth, all tools are at their disposal. The dissent is targeted, punished, and state's mandate. So you can see this is a balance, balance, so you can balance of power or scale, we can call. The state mandates national security, counterterrorism, crime prevention, cyber fraud control, necessary tools for modern governance. So they have more power, and the people have structural vulnerabilities, weak privacy protection, lack of independent judicial oversight, potential for misuse against political opponent, reduced democratic accountability. India is not 1984 in the true sense. It's almost there with the combination of rapidly expanding surveillance tech with limited democratic oversight creates an architecture of profound concern. Big Brother. Big Brother is ED department, is not absolute today, but the capacity for behavioral control is already being built. So, in conclusion, yes, they have elections, but it's almost like 1984 of Orwell's book, but maybe worse now. They have more tools, more control, how to control the dissent. So, I think this is my conclusion that there's no freedom. It's worse than Orwell's conclusion, and getting worse every day. The danger is more connivance they have with Israelis, how far this will go. I hope it never goes like the blowing up the beepers, where they blow up the phones for the Sikhs, Muslims, or Christians. I'm not trying to cause scare, but this is a real fear, and there's real possibility these criminal governments can go to any extent. And they are both criminal governments. I have no hesitation in saying that. Thank you, Angus.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Grail. It's fascinating. And I mean, 1984 as a novel, and I read it, maybe like 10, 15 years ago. And I read it as a teenager, and it has probably the most profound impact on anybody who reads it, because it really is a lesson. It is, as I said in the introduction, it is a warning. It sets out a blueprint for any authoritarian regime. And really, every human being on this planet should be obliged to read this book just to understand human nature and how human nature can be so easily taken advantage of by those who want to control humanity. And we, as I say, we've seen this throughout history, and you referred to various regimes, whether it's the Nazis, Stalin, or now potentially present-day India. What is interesting, of course, is the language, the lexicon of 1984 has entered our everyday language now. Words like groupthink, thought crimes, Big Brother, obviously one of the obvious ones, because people are now aware of these things. And we should see 1984, and I think you're correct in saying India is not 1984 yet. That's the key, is that this book has always served as a warning to warn humanity. These are the methods. When you identify these methods, you are on that road to 1984. So it does stand as that red flag, that warning post to try and warn humanity about what potentially is around the corner if you don't stop it. So I think that's the key thing. But just as a really final question, Dr. Grail, what I would like to ask you, this really refers to this slide, your conclusions. And I think quite often I see people across social media, even the mainstream media, they say, well, look, India isn't authoritarian. It is a democracy. It has elections. How on earth can a democracy be authoritarian if you've got elections? But as you rightly point out, well, so does Russia, so does China, yet they are known as authoritarian regimes. There is this illusion of choice, and ironically, this does reflect actually issues we've got here in the United Kingdom, for example. This illusion of choice. We have two competing parties, like in India, for example, you've got Congress and you've got the BJP, the government and the opposition, the official opposition. Essentially, they are two sides of the same coin. They are behind them. They are just the illusion of choice, the illusion of democracy. But in reality, and the reason why the Sikh community, I understand, has become such a target for oppression, persecution, and to try and drive it out of existence, is because the people who are behind this illusion of democracy is the ruling elite of India. It is the Brahmanical upper caste rulers of India who has essentially inherited India from the British Empire. They wrote a constitution that helps maintain control, and they've set up this illusion of democracy of all these parties. Yes, you can vote for Congress or BJP or all these hundreds of other different parties, but ultimately the structure of India from 1947, as inherited from the British, is designed to maintain essentially a colonial control by a small ruling elite. Would you agree that is the case? And who do you think really is that, the puppeteers? Who do you think is pulling the strings in India?
I think you're right. Let's take one example. What they have done in the constitution is this a secular, socialist, whatever they call. But look at the structure. So they are 539 something close to that members of the parliament, the lower house. 133 or 134, something like that, are reserved seats for different class system, which is whatever you call it, it's a low class. It's not equal to the upper class. So they have given some seats. Who elects on those? They still had to be supported by majority community to get elected on those 130 some seats. Even all of them are rebellious. How can 133 or 134 people outvote 530 and any law? What can they gain? They have been given, as long as they say, okay, we are Hindus, we are low class, we submit, yeah, they get some benefit. They may get some share of their jobs, but they can be insulted. Even if you're Supreme Court, Chief Justice, somebody can throw a shoe at you because they remind you who you are. You are here because we let you be here. Not too long ago, there was a very high police official, AIG, something like that in Haryana, committed suicide because he could not take the insults anymore. Yes, you can be given some benefits as long as you accept their hegemony and you accept your low class and you are willing to, like they break you, just like in the end in this book, right? O'Brien is the representative, big brother, okay? What they call, he's a truth police, okay? He breaks Vincent the back, he tortures them, he submits them, and he lives like that. So this is why I think it's like Orwell 1984. Yes, 40% to 50% of these people, so-called, I think if you add all of them, they are more than 50%. They have been subdued and they have been told, live within your means, live within your status we are giving you, this is good enough for you. Listen to the majority, listen to the high class, and you are, okay, this is the democracy in India. You live low class, you accept your fate, that this is your fate, you're going to serve these people, and then you are considered a good citizen. If you are trying to rebel like Amritpal or many others, then you go to jail. You don't need any trial. You can be in jail. You can be elected to the member of the parliament, but you cannot attend the parliament session. You cannot represent those people because they are disfranchised. So there is no true democracy. Elections are meaningless because you cannot change anything. You can't pass any laws. The Punjab Chief Minister cannot call a meeting of the assembly to pass any laws. Every day there's some mischief to harass the minority communities, Muslim, Christian, Sikhs. So this is very much like 1984. I think sometimes it's going towards even worse than that.
Indeed, it is probably the 21st century version of 1984. And that is obviously something that we continue to warn about. But anyway, it's a fascinating discussion, but unfortunately there we must leave it. But we will be talking again with Dr. Growell soon to continue our discussion. Dr. Growell, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Angus. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I hope the people who are listening, if they have not read, they should read 1984. The book is available in every library.
Absolutely. As I say, every human being must be obliged to read that book. And if you haven't read it, do get out there and read that. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.